Begins today, we will see some of the slew of the charges that he's facing. Now, prosecutors say Jesse Keller Taggart fired a gun at a man who was driving through a crowd during a Black Lives Matter protest in Provo. The victim was seriously injured, and investigators say the shooting put others nearby at risk. Taggart is charged with attempted aggravated murder, aggravated assault, felony discharge of a firearm, and riot. He has pleaded not guilty. Defense attorneys argue police failed to fully analyze the scene and showed bias in how evidence was handled, just spending 26 minutes processing the crime scene. They also argue instead that the victim could have been charged with the crime, but prosecutors chose not to. A judge rejected a request to dismiss the charges, allowing the case to proceed to trial. That trial is expected to begin at 8:30 a.m. this morning, with jury selection and testimonies to go on throughout the week, and we'll continue to update you on that court case as we receive some news. Reporting live, Tyrese Boone, KSL 5 News.
All right, Tyrese, thank you for following that for us today. Also, this morning, it's been nearly 4 years since two young boys were hit by a distracted driver. The two families now hoping for answers in court after years of delays. On July 6, 2022, police say Chantil Garn was using her phone when she ran her SUV into the bike lane where Braden Long and his friend Anthony Sandoval were. Braden was killed in that crash. Anthony now has lifelong injuries. Garn is set to face a jury trial, but when that will happen still isn't known.
It's just frustrating to know that someone has disabled my child and killed someone else, and there's no accountability.
The district attorney's office tells KSL many of the delays come from challenges in digital evidence. The next pretrial hearing is set for March 31st. The families hope they'll get a trial date set at that point. A man police say fled to the Philippines after killing a Utah woman in 2024 is now speaking out. He claims he's being framed. Henry Resura Jr. talked to our partners at East Idaho News, making some claims about the death of Roosevelt resident Kimberly Hyde. Resura was her neighbor at the time of that murder. He denies any involvement and says Kimberly's husband, Michael, is setting him up. He says the investigation in Utah is biased and called for FBI involvement. However, a police affidavit says Resura admitted to killing Hyde to his wife and son. Michael Hyde has never been named as a suspect in this case, and you could read Resura's full account on our website. A Salt Lake man now facing a murder charge, accused of shooting another man in the back from a second-floor apartment. Police say Tyson Babb was stealing a bike when the owner, Shane Hageman, fired at him multiple times. This happened earlier this month near 750 South 13th East. Babb died of his injuries at the hospital. Hageman called 911 after the shooting and told dispatchers what had happened. In addition to the murder charge, he faces 7 counts of discharge of a firearm. And new charges against a man police say physically interfered with first responders after a mass shooting in Salt Lake City. It happened outside a chapel belonging to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints during a funeral service earlier this month. 2 people were killed, 6 others were hurt. Police say witness statements from Ryan Totai don't match what evidence has shown. They found pictures of a gun on his phone that looked like the one found at the scene. They say he also has ties to a gang with a long history in Salt Lake City. Totai was arrested last week and has now been charged with obstructing justice. At least 88 new cases of measles in South Carolina is now threatening this country's measles elimination status. Deputy Director Ralph Abraham, who joined the CDC just this month, says losing elimination status will not change key measles elimination strategies. This comes as the South Carolina outbreak has reached 646 total cases. Nationwide cases this past year have reached more than 2,200. That's the most that we have seen since 1991. If these outbreaks continue into April, the U.S. will be at risk of losing its elimination status. Here in Utah, more than 200 people diagnosed with measles have been linked to the very same outbreak, with 55 of those cases within just the last 3 weeks. The Utah Department of Health and Human Services has recently said people with the vaccine are protected from the virus most of the time. The biggest concern is protecting young children who have not yet received their shots.
We haven't had that many measles cases in Utah for over 30 years, so this is very extreme and it's really concerning.
Well, they say anyone who suspects that they have been exposed should stay away from the public and call before heading to an emergency room. All right, let's get to Matt Johnson now. We're going to see some haze today, which is something that we've been seeing the last few days.
Yep. And, it might come in a little less than what we had yesterday. So some subtle improvement as far as air quality is concerned. Looking at the temperature over the last 21 days or so, we averaged 36.8. And again, that may look like a cold number, but we're taking the high and the low and we're putting them together. And that's how we get the average temperature over the last 3 weeks. Now, the average through the date is around 30.9. So we are 6 degrees above that mark. That's huge for average temperature. Way too warm. We picked up 0.42. We should have 0.93 by this time in late January. Not a lick of snow to be found out there. You got some high clouds overhead, and off to the west coast, a little something. It's not special, but it's something, and it's going to be playing into our weather later this week. I'm going to talk about that here in about 10 minutes, but right now you need to know this before you head out the door. Temperatures similar to yesterday, pretty easy going.
Well, it sounds good. Thank you much, Matt. Here's what else you need to know as you're headed out the door. Traffic's starting to pick up this morning. Because of that, our typical traffic trouble spots are starting to see some slowdowns. So Bangor Highway is definitely one of those. Bangor headed north right here as you approach 3500 South, the 201. You're starting to see that yellow and red areas right here as all those cars start to stack up here at the light, and that's what we're seeing. So you have that intermittent as soon as the light goes and everybody else can go. But for right now, right there, Lori, you're going to see some more cars on the road.
All right. Well, thanks for watching that for us, Brian. Meanwhile, this morning, a fast-moving and devastating trailer fire claimed the life of a beloved father and grandfather from Helper in central Utah. This cell phone video taken by the family shows all that remains from that huge fire that destroyed everything. It happened on Wednesday, January 14th. 73-year-old Rudy Draper was inside the trailer with his dog when it suddenly caught fire. Both were killed. A neighbor told family they could not get inside to save him.
He was crying and he said, I tried to get the person out. Smoke was coming out so heavily and the flames the heat of it just blew me backwards.
Rudy was a retired truck driver who traveled the country many times over. Investigators say that fire was started by the furnace. The trial for a South Ogden man is now moving forward despite his refusal to attend a court hearing on Tuesday. 46-year-old James Rios is facing several charges in connection with a shooting that happened earlier in the month. Police say Rios shot and killed his neighbor. They then say he also hurt his neighbor's son and fired at responding officers. Rios did not leave his jail cell for the scheduled court appearance. He will be back in court January 27th. New details about the man who attacked a Michigan church last year. We're learning he phoned in threats to 3 nearby churches before that assault. Police say the shooter killed 4 people worshiping with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on September 28th. He hurt several others. According to a new update, he called 911 reporting threats at separate unrelated churches nearby just minutes before the attack. The FBI says he was motivated by anti-religious beliefs against the Latter-day Saint community.
It's the story of 2 Americas.
And this protest in Salt Lake City on Tuesday with protesters speaking out against the death of a Minneapolis woman shot and killed by an ICE officer. Dozens gathered at the state capitol expressing their frustration. Renee Good's death just weeks ago has sparked nationwide outrage against the agency for its increased immigration efforts. And this morning, we're hearing from a family member of the father and daughter involved in a helicopter crash in Wasatch County. This is video of Corey Toon and his daughter Oakley excited about getting into that helicopter this past Sunday, just a short time before the crash. It fell nearly 500 feet after something went wrong. We spoke with one of his daughters, Bailey DeMars, who credits the pilots for saving their lives.
Once the helicopter suddenly started spinning out of control, the pilot handled it so well. He maintain whatever control he could and knew that the safest landing would be in the trees. I can't thank that pilot enough. He really deserves a hero trophy in my book.
All 4 people on board, including the pilot and his wife, survived. DeMars says several miracles came together to make that happen. Utah's most infamous kidnapping case is back in the spotlight this morning as Netflix releases a new documentary today called Kidnapped, Elizabeth Smart. It focuses on the horrific events that unfolded after Smart was abducted from her home in Salt Lake City back in 2002 when she was just 14 years old, leading to one of the most intense and widely covered missing persons case America has ever seen. This new documentary extensively covers the details of everything that happened in those grueling months. In other headlines this morning, homeowners are now being urged to test for radon inside their homes, as new data is showing that many homes are either at or above recommended levels. Radon is a natural gas that comes from uranium and radium that breaks down in our soil. You can't smell it, you can't taste it. Alpha Energy Laboratories, which analyzes Utah radon tests, says the counties with the highest radon levels, Wasatch and Box Elder, at 69% of homes. Cache County has close to 68% with radon detection, followed by Tooele and Utah counties. You can get a free radon test kit for your home. Utah Radon Services offers those on their website or by phone, and you can find out more information on how on our website, KSLTV.com. And again, it's free. Radon can kill you, so do it. It really could save your life. Also this morning, a new study out of Antelope Canyon, Arizona, has taken a look at the most and least deadly national parks across this country. Utah is on both of those lists. The study used mortality data from the National Park Service from the last 10 years. Dinosaur National Monument in Vernal was ranked the 7th deadliest in America, with 2.6 deaths per million visitors. Canyonlands was the 10th most dangerous at 2.1. On the other end of the spectrum, we're going to talk the safest, Zion, the 7th in the nation, with 0.77 deaths per million visitors. Bryce Canyon was the 3rd safest with 0.25. Ogden Canyon currently under a month-long lane closure. UDOT says the canyon will be down to 1 lane until February 20th, with one-way alternating traffic during the day. That lane closure is because of a pipeline project. UDOT says drivers can expect delays of about 5 to 15 minutes, with longer delays possible on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And speaking of Wednesdays, we're on hump day today. Matt Johnson, let's talk about the forecast. I cannot believe, once again, I missed the Northern Lights.
It's tough. It's an elusive thing, right? And they show up, they go away, then they'll come back. They kind of ebb and flow through the night if they are going to show up. And luckily, around 10 p.m. last night in Huntsville, George Pandoff with the credit here, as we saw some pretty beautiful colors dancing across the horizon. It wasn't just Huntsville. We had people out at Antelope Island, the Salt Flats, even southern Utah, picking up a little bit of color last night. Now, as far as precipitation is concerned, this winter, we're doing okay as far as water. Now, snowfall, not so much. This winter season, we've picked up 1/10 of an inch of snow. I have listed here the least snowiest winters on record in Salt Lake. And look at number 5. That was just last year. We picked up 18 inches, most of that falling within the month of March. Just incredible how low the snow amounts have been this season, not only in the valleys, but in the mountaintops. High pressure over Southern California is going to get replaced by a West Coast low. That'll put clouds into Utah today and even into Thursday. There's not much going on for us over the next 48 hours. Now, taking it into Friday, there you go. We do have a couple of rain snow showers expected in central Utah. It's not going to amount to much, and it's quickly out of here by Saturday. Monster storm shaping up this weekend for the south. I've got 1/10 to 1/4 in central Utah out of this. You get into southeast Utah, well, another 1/10 to 1/3 is possible. Not a big storm, but we're going to add it to our winter totals, hoping to pick up a little more water for the places in central and southern Utah where they've really struggled this year. St. George, you got a 57. We'll go to 52 in Panguitch. Now, Montpelier, Star Valley, and Evanston, 20s and 30s for highs today. So there's cold air to be found out there, but even those locations are running above the normal. St. George, you're going to go for 57 to 59. I got clouds in play Thursday and Friday. Cooler, drier air moves in Saturday and Sunday, but it's only by a few degrees. Wasatch Front, you're going to go for 46 today and tomorrow. The haze holds on, and then it actually exits the region as we get a little cold front sweeping things out of here, but ushering in cooler air. Saturday's high, 37 degrees, Brian.
That's the trade-off. Thank you much, Matt. All right, watching one of those rough spots for you this morning here in Utah County. So this is Lehigh. Everyone coming in from Saratoga Springs or Eagle Mountain towards I-15, 2100 North and Lehigh is where all those cars tend to bunch up. So you're definitely seeing some slowdowns out there right now. Here's the camera angle on 2100 North and Lehigh. Again, this is everybody headed towards I-15, and everybody's stacked up there, Laura. Give yourself some extra time if you're on that drive there in Utah County. Lori?
All right, Brian, thank you. Investors reacting to new potential tariffs in the wake of President Trump seeking control of Greenland. Yesterday, Wall Street had one of its worst days since October. Right now, the president is threatening a 10% duty on imports from 8 European countries, prompting Tuesday's sell-off. The U.S. Supreme Court could still decide to rein in the president's tariff powers. We are waiting on that court ruling. And other consumer headlines this morning, an Amazon executive is sharing the reason why he believes prices on many items the retailer offers have gone up in recent months. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy blamed higher prices at least partially on President Trump's sweeping tariffs. Jassy says the tariffs had led to some sellers passing on those costs to their consumers. He says Amazon is working with its selling partners to keep prices down, but there are only so many options that they have. Childcare, one of the biggest financial burdens for American parents. Research from Lending Tree says parents need to earn about $400,000 a year to comfortably afford childcare for 2 children. The average cost for care of those two. Federal guidelines say childcare is considered affordable when it does not cost more than 7% of the household income. $400,000. Wow. Well, right now, police across the state are committing to stopping drunk drivers again this year. Taylorsville police say the biggest focus will be during the fall, especially during Labor Day, just like last year. They're teaming up with Utah Highway Patrol, Utah Highway Safety, and Mothers Against Drunk Driving for coordinated DUI blitzes. As always, the department is asking drivers to plan ahead if they want to drink by finding a ride ahead of time or using a rideshare. A big milestone at Kennecott Copper Mine, a rare mineral, is now powering a new solar plant there. Officials with Rio Tinto say it's bringing in enough to power more than 1,000 American homes annually. It has over 71,000 panels. Officials also say the new solar plant helps reduce emissions by 6%. That's the equivalent of pulling 4,400 cars from the roads each year. All right, let's get back to talk about our weather outside. We're talking about pulling, cars from the roads because, of course, that increases the haze that we see because it's part of the pollution.
Yes, if you can carpool or even work from home, we don't want to contribute to the haze that's already out there. Now, today, as you can see those city lights as the sun comes up, there is a little haze to be had, but it's not near as bad as what we had last week. Current temperature 24, humidity 81%, winds light out of the south at about 6 miles an hour. Your 3-day forecast, 46 dialed in today and tomorrow with haze in place. Thursday, I think we start to clear it out. Temperatures in the low 40s, mostly cloudy, but the haze will continue to diminish even as we head into the weekend. Brian?
All right, thank you much there, Matt. Just kind of got an update in the last couple of minutes on a new crash near University Parkway in Orem. So this is, you're looking at I-15 headed north. And it's tough to see this crash because it's right behind the freeway sign, but here it is blocking the right lane of traffic. And you can see all the backup. There's those cars trying to get around it here this morning. Just starting to pour in coming from Provo towards Salt Lake City this morning. It's going to be a massive slowdown there in Orem this morning. So just came in a couple minutes ago. Expect some backups. Give yourself some extra time. Lori?
Brian, thanks for keeping us updated. We appreciate it. We're learning a Utah-based documentary almost made it to the shortlist for the Oscars this year. Rat Rod is about a man born in Mexico City. He grew up in a rural Utah town and ended up becoming a mechanic. This short film features the life of Jorge Ramirez and the discrimination and challenges that he faced growing up as one of the only Mexicans in the area. The documentary won in international film festivals in Seattle and Nashville, qualifying it twice for the Academy Awards. It made it into a list of top 100 before the film was not selected. All right, best story of the day right here. A kitty in Layton has a new lease on life, possibly a new home, after being stuck on top of this power pole for nearly 3 days. It all started when Layton resident Ruby Wild saw someone post in the Ring doorbell app that they saw a cat on top of a power pole and that she'd been there for 2 days already. Wild says neighbors were calling Rocky Mountain Power and the fire department to get her down. Crews finally came out to help on day 3.
I hurried and got in my car and drove straight there so that I could receive the cat, because I was worried what they would do with her after.
Well, as it turns out, Mama Kitty, as she's now known, went home with Wild. She's now in the process of adopting her. She says Mama Kitty appears affectionate and Mama Kitty is healthy. And we're grateful for that this morning. Thanks so much for joining us on this segment of KSL News Now. We leave you with a live look to downtown Salt Lake City as the sun comes up on this Wednesday morning. Have a great day, everyone.